I want to talk about whether you think the platform generically has merit over the long term. But before that, it sounds like I imagine you think Zuckerberg is just trying to co-opt this phrase as a way to distract from other troubles.
Oh, he's absolutely trying to change the conversation about Facebook, given that it's under investigation, it seems like, every month on Capitol Hill. I mean, look, deciding to rename Facebook is like Philip Morris telling the Surgeon General that instead of changing cigarettes, their solution is to create a brand new amusement park named Tobacco Adventureland and hope that that gets everyone so excited that they stop remembering that these cigarettes are actually unhealthy for you.
The engineering, though, Charles, and the marketing effort is not something you can just whip up in a couple of weeks in response to some pressure on iOS or from Congress or something else. This had to have been years in the making. It's hard to imagine this was strictly a defensive move.
No, it's going to be years in the making. There's no clear reason why they announced this right now, except to try and distract us. Think about how Amazon rolled out Alexa, right? They spent years and years and years developing the technology. They released it iteratively. By the time you had a fully functioning Alexa in your home, you didn't even realize that it had been such a huge leap because you had seen little drips and drabs of it. For Facebook now to be renaming itself Meta without actually having a product of the metaverse, it's a desperation play. It makes no sense whatsoever. And there's no clear evidence that Facebook's the company that's going to be able to bring us into the metaverse. There's a lot of other hardware companies out there that are farther along this journey than Facebook is.
That's very fair, Charles. We spent the last week talking about that, but we've also spent the last week talking about the metaverse and Facebook and not really regulatory pressure. So, yes, Facebook's trying to change the narrative. Is that working?
I don't think so. I mean, except the fact that we're talking about metaverse right now. Look,
we are.
Facebook has spent all of this time and energy talking about the metaverse. What is there for you to go buy right now? Like, what product did they release this week? There isn't one. In fact, the greatest metaverse-like product that we have is something sold by Apple. It's the AirPods. Facebook sold about 2 to 3 million Oculuses last year, the device you put on your face so that you can play video games. Apple sold 110 million AirPods last year. And AirPods are essentially augmented reality. They allow you to listen to what's going on around you and listen to your own music or your podcasts or your audiobooks on top of that. It doesn't make any sense for Facebook to be doing this. And I think ultimately it's going to backlash because the more we talk about the metaverse, the more we point out that this is just a way for them to try and distract us from the fact that right now they can't stop 14-year-old girls from bullying each other into eating disorders on their own platform. Charles? So why should we believe that they're going to do a better job with the new technology?
I'm having a hard time knowing what to do here because you're out curmudgeoning me on the metaverse. I'd like to just make it clear, I was here first earlier this week, maybe even last week. My problem here isn't with the components that are being kind of glommed into the metaverse. There are some great business models here, powerful models from Adobe, Unity Software, NVIDIA, which we were just talking about. Look at Apple's new chips that are tuned toward graphics, as well as the AirPods that you mentioned. It's putting in these unproven things like AR, VR headsets, which have been around for years and haven't gone mainstream, and somehow trying to co-opt those models into suggesting that this hardware is going to be more successful in the future than it's been in the past. To me, that's completely unclear.
Well, and I think that there's sort of two separate questions here. The first is, are we going to eventually move to a world where there's more integration between digital and real life, the metaverse? The answer is absolutely yes, right? Over the next decade or 15 years, we are going to see more and more digital aspects to our daily passive life. But the second question is Facebook or any existing companies the ones that right now are going to bring us into that new universe, a new tomorrow? And now, I would argue that Apple actually has a pretty good history of hardware design and hardware innovation. Amazon has proven itself. Facebook has not proven itself to be a hardware company in the slightest, nor really an innovator when it comes to taking a new technology and making it mainstream. And my guess is that much like every other technology that's ever become popular, that we don't know what the path to the future is going to look like. It's going to take us off guard. It's going to be unexpected. It's going to come from some college student sitting in a dorm room who has an idea that becomes the most valuable company in the world. And so right now, trying to game out what the next decade's going to look like is a fool's game. And it only exists to try and change the conversation around the fact that this company is obviously suffering from terrible leadership right now, and that they don't seem to know what they're doing when it comes to stopping regulators from cracking down.